And the second stage of the AMGEN Tour of California made its start from Arena Green in San Francisco, bending a southerly course down to Santa Cruz County. A distance of 185 kilometers, and in yellow, Paul, was Peter Sagan.
Yeah, what a way to start with the iconic backdrop of the Golden Gate Bridge and then riding down one of the most famous highways in the world, Highway 1, alongside the Pacific Ocean.
And it was along Highway 1 where a breakaway consolidated itself. There were 6 riders getting clear, but on the climb of the Empire Grade, they were reduced to 3. A New Zealand rider, a Frenchman, and Brad White from the USA.
Once they started to get onto the climbs, we could see that the men were getting separated from the boys, and the sprinters were having a very difficult time, including Marcel Kittel, the sprinter from Argos. Strangely enough, it was his own teammate who was off the front of the bike race, Alexandre Genier of France, leading by around about 4 minutes over the main field, and then he decided to go it alone.
Riding for the new Argos Shimano team, with still a long way to go to the finish, Alexandre Genier attacked on the slopes, ridding himself of everybody else, and cheered on by the fans of California. 73 kilometers out from the finish, he was still in the lead, but at 67 kilometers, a massive pile-up, seemingly innocuous, no injuries, but they'd taken down the race leader, Sagan.
Peter Sagan involved in a little bit of an accident on the running towards the finish on the first stage when he had a flat tyre in the side of the road. He didn't panic at all, waited for his mechanic to get everything right before he got back onto the machine, and eventually he would get himself right back into the pack.
One of the other riders also down here was the young rider, Josh Wilkes, who was on the attack in 6th place overall. Then at the front, it was the Garmin Barracuda team. Clearly had a plan to break this field up, but it didn't stop Sagan getting back. Meanwhile, it was Genier at the top of the King of the Mountains for Nissan, who got the maximum points.
But then there was a big chase by the men from the King of the Mountains leader the day before, Boyer from Canada, and Team Spidertech. He managed to get himself a few more points when they went over the summit of Empire Grade. That would keep him in the lead in the King of the Mountains classification for another day. But there was still one more climb looming on the horizon, a very difficult climb and ascent of Bear Creek.
Yes, David Boyer could not be caught on this day and would lead on day 3 of the race in the King of the Mountains, but shortly the peloton was sweeping up everybody except the race leader, who was hanging on. 60 kilometers to go. He was taking some risks on the way down the mountain.
If you want to win a bike race, that's the only thing to do. But other members of the main field this afternoon had a very serious thought. They wanted to pull the whole of the race back together, and the big teams finally came out to play. A lot of work was being done by the guys in the blue jerseys, Garmin Barracuda. They wanted this to be a bunch sprint.
But it was only to be towards the end, 36 kilometers out, and the field being led up now by United Healthcare, looking to gain a ground with Rory Sutherland, their Australian hope. He was trapped and brought back, and it was a big field that brought him back into the fold. Their backs were now to the Pacific as they were beginning to make their way onto Bear Creek and the journey down to the finish in Santa Cruz County.
Pace was high throughout the whole of the day, really making it a very tough race. But once we started to get into the final few kilometers, at 8.5 kilometers to go, Team Liquigas was still very much in control, using their American rider Tim Duggan to really set a pace.
Yes, despite his ups and downs of the last 2 days, the yellow jersey of Peter Sagan was lucky not to be involved in this one. He was much nearer the front, but it did leave the American champion on the right there, Mathieu Boucher, sitting on the road and losing time towards the finish.
But the action was all at the front, despite the fact this crash here actually split the main field a fraction. None of the big names were involved, and as they charged down into the heart of the town here of Santa Cruz County, the big crowds had turned out to see the bike race. It looked very much into the final corner as if Green Edge from Australia had control of this race until the last moment when the man in yellow came out.
Yes, Lee Howard was still on the inside, the Australian sprinter, but quickly passed by Peter Sagan, who's going to make it 2 days out of 2. Chased over the line by the man who finished second to him yesterday in Santa Rosa, Heinrich Hausler. So for that reason, they keep the top 2 places on the overall classification. Peter Sagan, another 10-second win bonus, has helped him to actually increase his lead. He leads Hausler by 8 seconds now. Lee Howard has moved up into 3rd place, 13 seconds back. Jeff Lauder down from 3rd to 4th at 14 seconds back. But the man very much in charge of the opening days of the race is Peter Sagan.